All right. Good afternoon, and welcome to all of our great members and friends joining us remotely today. We're so glad to have you with us for what will be a fantastic and informative session. We truly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Before we begin, a quick note on our logistics for today's webinar. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat box at any time, and either I or our associate Holly Hart, who's on the webinar today, will address those and take care of them. And we're going to be holding Q&A to the end, except for a few questions that our presenter has for you that will pop up on the screen. The webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you to watch at your convenience, and it will be on our YouTube channel. So now I'm incredibly happy to turn over our webinar to Dylan from Chameleon Associates, and he'll be leading our topic today. Dylan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matthew. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session. We've titled this Geographic Marketing Missions, a Practical Guide for Economic Developers. I'm Dylan Roberts. I'm the Director of Prospect Engage at Chameleon Associates. Excited to be here with you to talk about something that's really at the core of what we do every day, helping communities make real connections that drive investment and job creation. We all know that economic development has been become increasingly digital. The thing is, we think relationships still drive business decisions. We see that every day. That's where marketing missions really come in. There's targeted outreach efforts where your organization travels to key markets to meet directly with businesses, industry leaders, and site selectors. They give you a chance to build awareness of your region's business advantages, strengthen relationships with corporate decision makers, and to generate qualified leads for expansion and investment. Kind of think of it as taking your community story on the road, showing up where your prospects are already located, and kind of making it personal. So before we dive in, I do have a Slido poll, a couple of different questions are going to come through throughout the webinar, throughout the presentation. So you can use the QR code there, or you can go to slido.com and type in that code. So just give you a second to do that. Just wanted to start with a question. How many of you have ever done a marketing mission? And we'll see if anybody is able to get into it and actually answer the question. Just kind of curious how many people are actually doing marketing missions. So we'll see if there's any that come through. Yep, so we've got one. Yes, we do them all the time. And I don't think we have a whole lot of people, so we'll see. We'll see if we get more answers. So I'm just going to dive into it. So why marketing missions matter. Even in the age of data, AI, and automation, I think that really nothing replaces the power of face-to-face engagement. Companies are really making faster decisions than ever. Competition among regions is fierce, as you all know. Despite that, really trust and connection are still built in person. So I think there's a lot of value in a marketing mission. When you meet with the CEO or a site selector in their market, when they can actually see your passion and hear your story firsthand, it moves you from just another name on a list to a partner that they're going to remember. And the payoff is real. These missions, they generate new visibility, they open doors for follow-up meetings, they build relationships that often translate into investment and job creation down the road. Just here at Chameleon Associates, we've conducted roughly 400 missions doing appointment setting for clients since 2005. And that has resulted in over $700 million in capital investment and around 2,800 new jobs created. And that's just specifically from marketing missions. So we do this every day. We've done dozens and dozens of marketing missions this year. We have active missions going right now to Toronto, Atlanta, Greenville for site consultant missions. We've done missions to Southern California, to New York, all within the past couple of months. We really do think that it's a very good way to get in front of these corporate executives or site consultants and to meet with them. Before you kind of book a flight or start your outreach, I think step one is really knowing what your competitive position is. So you can't really market what you don't understand. So that starts with clear data-informed information about your community. What makes you truly competitive, and where you might have some challenges that you have to address. So you're going to ask yourself, what are your strongest industries or clusters? What are your workforce advantages, your labor pool, your training programs, your partnerships? How ready is your infrastructure, your industrial sites, your utilities, your logistics? What's your business climate like? And finally, what's your quality of life story? So if there is anybody that wants to put in the chat something that kind of describes your region's biggest competitive advantage, you can put that in the chat and we'll have Holly or Matthew mention it. We have a white paper that's going to be coming out. We kind of put in it that a good competitiveness review doesn't just celebrate wins, it identifies what might hold you back. So we do a lot of that as well: geographic competitiveness assessments, target industry studies, and helping our clients to really understand exactly where their competitive position lies, how they compete against other regions or communities across the US. And I think that could really be helpful when you're talking to companies or site consultants. Southern Carolina Alliance, they've been a client of ours for many years. We do a lot of different marketing missions for them. So I just wanted to highlight, they began kind of targeting advanced manufacturing many years ago. When they did that, they wanted to start with the data, really diving into labor market, site readiness, wage comparisons, and going through and finding that they did have the workforce, the infrastructure, the cost advantages, and that created a clear message for them that they use when they go on these trips. And it's helped them to land multiple new investments. So we've helped them land at least 4 new projects from marketing missions over the past about 5 years, and taking those mission appointments directly from just face-to-face meetings into actual capital investment in projects. So again, understand your region deeply, your data tells your story, and your honesty builds trust. And then the most successful marketing missions are focused and strategic. A lot of EDOs kind of try to meet with as many companies as possible, but really in practice, I think precision beats volume. So we recommend really defining 2 to 3 target industries that align really well with your assets and your workforce. Identify those high potential markets, those places where those industries cluster or where business costs are rising. Build a prospect list. We typically do appointment setting for these missions. We'll try to target anywhere from 5 to 8, could be 10 sometimes, appointments that are pre-scheduled for the client. I think if you do have about at least 5 to 8 meetings set, then it could be a successful marketing mission typically. And you can use different tools. There's a lot of different tools that you can use, looking at website data, intent data, past prospects, trade show follow-ups, using LinkedIn to identify companies or corporate executives. Obviously, target industry data can be very helpful. And yeah, just taking that and aligning it with your message, I think is very critical. So we have another question here in the poll. So what are your biggest challenges when planning a marketing mission? And I was just going to have you rank those kind of from highest to lowest. I think a lot of people struggle with actually getting the meeting set up, getting the appointment scheduled. I think budget and time constraints are also a major issue. And then honestly, I think a lot of clients really struggle with follow-ups. I think follow-ups, even for trade shows and definitely for marketing missions, can be a little bit of a pain point for clients. So we've helped clients with that over the years, and I've really noticed that it can be really challenging to follow up with these companies and stay connected with them. Upstate SC Alliance, that's another client of ours we've done a lot of missions for. They do this extremely well. They run a highly targeted kind of data informed process. They target advanced materials, automotive, life sciences. We've done missions to strategic markets like Boston, Detroit, Munich. The focus really has led them to have high quality meetings, ongoing relationships with global firms, follow-up inquiries that have ultimately led to site visits and capital investment. And typically with almost all of our clients that we do this for, we make recommendations to them on which markets they should travel to. We'll analyze, a large amount of information, like including where we've had success in the past, where we're seeing activity in the present, combine that with like our geographic competitiveness data set, industry data, And that really helps our clients to target areas where we know they're going to be successful for these missions. Another thing that's really important, it's not just about where you go, but it's also who goes with you. So your delegation should really reflect your region's full economic ecosystem. It doesn't have to be every single one of these, but having a combination of these on your team can be very helpful. So obviously the EDO leadership is very important. You're going to provide the vision and the strategy. You can bring along workforce partners, infrastructure partners. I think those are really important, addressing readiness and utilities. I've had a lot of clients that have been very successful with partnering with their utility partners in their region. Local government even is another one, speaking to specific things like permitting, incentives, community support, having those specific, counties or cities representing them along with the region can be very helpful. And even private sector. I mean, having somebody there that can actually give some credibility and proof that businesses succeed can be useful. And then crafting your message is kind of next. So, your audience, you kind of know who they are, you have your team. So your messaging should really answer 3 key questions. Why us? What makes your region a smart place to do business? Why now? What's happening that makes this the right time to invest? And why you? How do your assets align with their business needs? And again, I think just being honest is very important in these situations. If you don't have the right infrastructure or the utility requirements for a company, maybe you're just not the right fit and it's not going to work. So just being honest, I think actually carries a lot of weight. Down the road, maybe that company does want to expand into your region because you had a really good, honest conversation with them and they remember you. So I just think authenticity is very important in those situations. This is kind of a talking framework, a sample talking framework that you can use. I think a good way to start any of these kinds of meetings, and whether it's in person or whether it's a virtual meeting with a prospect, is to start out by asking them to really talk about their project, talk about their plans for growth and expansion, and then you can kind of dive into your pitch. You can share your community and how they can help companies grow efficiently. Talk about your value proposition, what your strengths are, your workforce, infrastructure, business climate, and then dive into success stories and actual data, real examples that matter. And then shifting into questions, I think, is also very important. Asking them, what are their biggest growth challenges right now? What are the most important location drivers? And then always closing with a call to action, some type of follow-up, site visit request, a data share. Just remember, again, authenticity beats polish. You're not there to sell just to sell. You're there to really connect with them. I think that's very important. And then execution is really, I think, where good missions can become great. So you want to talk about before setting the stage, defining clear goals, knowing who your audience is, preparing your talking points, really talking to your team about those talking points, rehearsing together. And then during the call, or the meeting, you want to listen more than you talk, ask thoughtful questions, take notes, capture intelligence. Every meeting is a chance to learn about trends, challenges, and opportunities. And then afterwards, following up is very important. Sending thank yous within 48 hours, logging your notes and your next steps in a CRM or a marketing platform, tracking which conversations evolve into real opportunities. The follow-up is really what turns these introductions and these meetings into actual investment. And we have a good success story just recently. Gross Cedar Valley, there's one of our clients. They did a trip to New York, New Jersey last year. They were very good about logging every contact, following up right away, sending out targeted information, making sure that a site visit happened. So 3 months later, this company did a site visit. And then earlier this year, they announced a new expansion in their region. And it was a direct result of that client really sticking to doing their follow-up, staying on top of connecting with that prospect, and developing a good relationship with them. So another poll here, what are the most important metrics that you currently track after a mission or after a trade show? Again, I think that this is another very important point, is really tracking information, tracking the number of appointments, tracking how many leads. And then ultimately, I think information we all track, you guys all track, is jobs created, capital investment, but being able to really tie that back to the actual mission and the meetings that took place, I think is very important. And that's obviously very important even for your board and, for being able to report back to your board or whoever your stakeholders may be. So yeah, looks like we've got a few answers here. So some leads generated, number of meetings, site visits. So it's good. It's good to see that information. And then I just wanted to talk about after the mission, don't just move on, kind of analyze what you learned. And that's where tracking that information can be very valuable. What did you hear consistently, kind of qualitatively, which industries or markets showed the most traction? Were there gaps in your workforce? Are there gaps in your workforce, incentives or sites that came up repeatedly? Are there issues that you can work on that came up during those conversations, during the meetings? And those should really kind of help shape your next marketing mission, your workforce strategy, even your infrastructure investments. Having that kind of intelligence, I think, is very valuable. Again, qualitatively speaking. Yeah, and then just to wrap up, marketing missions, they're really one of the most effective tools for modern business attraction. They're not about collecting business cards. They're about building momentum. Each one builds awareness, strengthens relationships, and creates opportunities that compound over time. So as you plan your next mission, I would just say, remember to focus on quality, not quantity. Lead with your strengths, show up united, follow up with a purpose. And we've really seen this firsthand, how a single mission, a single appointment from a mission can actually change the trajectory of a community's economic future. So yeah, thank you all for your time. Thank you for being here. Hopefully this gives you guys some new ideas on how you could potentially do some marketing missions or be more effective at marketing missions. We do have a white paper specifically focused on trade show appointment scheduling that's out right now. We have another one that's coming out focused on technology and AI in the near future. Keep your eyes out for that one as well. If you have any questions, let me know. And Matthew or Holly, if there are any questions, we can go through those now.
Hey, Dylan, thanks so much for that really insightful and incredible information. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat now. We'll give you just a few seconds here. All right, with no questions. I know there's so few of you today due to the Microsoft outage, but we want to thank you all for who did show up for joining us today. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out, Dylan or anyone in the SCDC team, me, Holly, or Matt Tackett, and we will do our best to follow up with Dylan and Kamoy with you. It's just a reminder that this webinar was recorded and will be available on our website and our YouTube channel for you to review and go through at any time. And finally, don't forget to check out the SCDC website for information on our upcoming webinars, as well as details on our upcoming in-person events like our Site Selection Summit in April in Dallas, our YP event also in December in Dallas, and our annual conference next year in Bonita Springs. You cannot miss that one. We have the entire resort. It's going to be one of the most amazing conferences you've ever been to, and it's our 80th anniversary, so definitely check that out. So thank you again for your time, and I hope you all have a great day. Goodbye.